appreciate your being here, and I appreciate the opportunity from the news media, television, radio, and I will try to answer your questions as best I can. Roxanne can answer questions, and if I don't hear too well, which sometimes they don't work too well, Roxanne will interpret your questions, and she will answer some of them.
You can give an introduction to what the Venus Project is.
Well, I want to try to tell you what the Venus Project is. If you want a world without war, most crimes, corruption, all that levels off, unemployment, you have to do certain things, if you agree with me. You have to declare all the Earth's resources as the common heritage of all the world's people.
Jaz vam imam vprašanje, potrebujete sploh tolmačenje slovenščine? Daj, nekaj talk.
All the world's people would have access to all the world's resources without the need for money, debt, or anything of the kind. The Venus Project wants us to pass the need for armies, navies, killing, soldiers, prisons, police, all the problems we have in society today. Politicians do not know how to answer.
They know English. They know English. Okay, go ahead.
Politicians, I don't want you to take my word for anything. I don't want you to follow me. I want you to listen to what I say. If it makes sense, do it. So go ahead and check with your politicians. Say, how do you prevent automobile accidents? They don't know. How can you increase food production? They don't know. How can you stop war, bridge a difference between nations? They don't know. They were great 100 years ago, but politics is obsolete. Everything that you have today that works is electronic, automobiles, flying machines. You had nothing to do with them. People say to me, Jacque, you want to give people things for nothing. Just being born in a technical country, you got the radio, the telephone, television, airplanes, cars. You didn't have anything to do with it. You got it for nothing. It doesn't hurt you. What hurts you is ignorance, not knowing. And schools today, all of them, universities, they are better equipped than ever. The wars are getting worse. So there's something wrong with all countries. From my point of view, they are all basically corrupt, including America, one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Now I say this because I'm concerned with the direction people are going in. Our major problem is our language. The language that we use today was designed hundreds of years ago. And the words that you use today do not work on all people. They go in their head and comes out as an interpretation. So we need a language that's not subject to interpretation. That's the major problem of the media today. The language they use is subject to interpretation. Is it possible to develop a language that's not subject to interpretation? Mathematics is not. Chemistry is not. When a chemical formula is written, it's understood in every country, not subject to interpretation. When engineers talk to each other, the language they use is not subject to interpretation. So it does exist. There are such languages. We have never been taught those languages as a definite process for communication. When the president or a politician speaks, he says, America, blah, blah, blah. America, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't say anything you can use. If a person were to say to me, the Venus Project will never work, I can't answer that because there's no question. If they say your beams are too narrow on the bottom of the building, or your bridges are not sufficient to carry the traffic, I can deal with it. But if you say you'll never see that, not in 1,000 years, that's useless, blah, blah, blah. So try to eliminate blah, 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 and come up with a real question. Who makes the decisions? What if a person doesn't want to live in that society? Is there freedom? Freedom of religion? Is there tradition? Will that be outlawed? Who makes the decisions? Those are the real questions. So, if you can't...
Can you go into a resource-based economy?
Yes.
Not knowing those prime issues.
Well, a resource-based economy is first doing a survey of what the world has. Arable land, production plans, transportation, all the essentials that make civilization work. Politics have nothing to do with it. We wish to take all the world's resources after a survey. After you survey what we have, then you design your cities. Your cities have to be based on not some opinion of a politician or any other opinion, but how much can the earth support? What is the carrying capacity of the world's resources? And base your designs on survey, not what's your opinion, what's your opinion. You were brought up, I believe, to believe that everyone should have a right to their own opinion. That's very dangerous. If you lived across the way from me, and I see 10 men coming out of your apartment, I can have all kinds of opinions. But I really should say, I don't know. She could be a language instructor, a ballet instructor, I don't know. But if you give everybody a right to their own opinion, yes, we think man will ever get to the moon, no, not in 1,000 years. You think that person studied anything? Just a blowing off steam, ego. And we have to have people who say, I don't know enough about rockets, I don't know enough about space travel, I can't answer the question. Learning how to say, I don't know, is one of the most important things in the history of civilization. Everybody's got answers based on nothing. So a resource-based economy uses resources and makes them available to all people. Now, where did America get the land America from? They stole it from the Indians. They stole some of it from Spain, some from Mexico. After we stole all the land we need, we put up the sign, thou shalt not steal. Now, Britain was never welcome to another world and say, here, take our land, use it. They say the sun never sets on England. They took it by murder, violence, lies, hypocrisy, and training people to be killing machines. I would take all the soldiers, if I had anything to do with it, and train them to be problem solvers. What's the problem between nations? How do you solve it? Not kill them. Kill them. It's primitive. It's savage. We are not civilized yet. As long as you have armies, navies, submarines, battleships, airplanes, and politics, we are not civilized. As long as you have prisons, police, hunger, starvation, non-medical care for the poor, we are not civilized. And I'm afraid of the space program. If any single nation goes out into space and develops the technology, I can assure you, sooner or later, there'll be nuclear weapons going around in space. They're not sane enough yet to use technology wisely. Unfortunately, this goes for scientists too. Scientists become very stupid when they're brought up in a given culture. Their field of endeavor, like optics, chemistry, structure, very good, but they're not trained as generalists. Most structural engineers know nothing about human behavior or the history of civilization. So what you need is various people on the earth that know how to solve problems, not army men. Army men think in terms of defense, but there are social scientists, there are social psychologists that can give you information that can make the world a better place. We rarely have them on television. We have politicians that say, Deutschland over alles, Germany above all. Now, they don't say anything. They don't talk about anything. They say, which they get from the Bible, we shall always have the poor amongst us. I can't accept that. We shall always have war and rumors of war. That says it in the Bible. I can't accept that. I believe the Bible was written by ignorant men. Proof. The Bible is subject to interpretation. When you read it, she says, Jesus meant this. She says, no, he meant that. And the third person says, he meant something else. So you have the Catherine, the Lutheran, the Seventh-day Adventist, because it is subject to interpretation. Whereas when scientists speak of a bridge, they want to know what the weight is that you're going to carry and how many cars go over every day. That determines the structure, which I like that system.